Thanks for tuning in to Murder News, the true crime cult for the latest breaking news, murdery memes, TV reviews, podcast recommendations, and all things spooky. It's officially the holiday season, but we want to invite you to be a spooky bitch all year round by joining our true crime cult. We want to make you some eggnog, decorate a tree, pet some baby goats, and discuss our favorite Christmas-themed crimes. I'm television's Aurora Katie.
Hey, it's me, your online murder friend, Angelina. Cults are no fun alone, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and tell all of your true crime friends to join the commune at murder.news. This is the Week in True Crime. So first of all, I want to do a little shout out to Miles from the Forensic Miles podcast for bringing this next story to our attention. This is the kind of murder story that seems almost ordinary at first glance. A woman was reported missing and her dead body was discovered a day later, just a few miles from her home in Houston, Texas. But as the details of this case unfold, both online and in the media, things just keep getting more suspicious. 26-year-old Alexis Sharkey was an Instagram and TikTok-based influencer and a representative of multi-level marketing company Monat. Her husband, 49-year-old Thomas Sharkey, reported her missing on Friday, November 27th and notified her family and friends about her disappearance. Soon after, Alexis's mother, Stacy Robineau, took to Facebook with a plea to help find her missing daughter. But less than 24 hours after her disappearance, the naked body of Alexis Sharkey was discovered by a Houston Public Works employee who noticed her feet sticking out from the bushes on the side of a road just a few miles from the apartment that Alexis and Tom Sharkey shared. Tom also wrote a number of Facebook posts about his late wife, which came off as a desperate attempt to feign grief. Many Facebook users have commented on his posts saying he seems guilty, and Tom himself claims that he has been receiving death threats. Reading his loving posts that paint Tom and his relationship with Alexis in a certain light, and then seeing Tom's own reactions and comments that give another impression altogether, I started to get a certain hunch, or a gut feeling, as Stacy Robineau described it when she explained that her mother's intuition tells her that her daughter was murdered. Alexis Sharkey's cause of death is yet to be determined, and her body bore no wounds or obvious signs of trauma, but several of her friends also have a hunch. 32-year-old Tanya Ricardo, 29-year-old Desiree Jacobs, 33-year-old Kendra Martin, and 33-year-old Chelsea Turnbow were Alexis Sharkey's best friends, and the group was inseparable. They texted every few hours, hung out together most days, and traveled together often. On a girls' trip to Marfa just a couple months ago, Alexis allegedly confided in her friends that she was being viciously abused by her husband Tom, who frequently strangled her to the point of blacking out. The friends said that Tom sent a barrage of nasty text messages to Alexis throughout the entire trip, and she started making plans to leave her relationship during that vacation. Tanya Ricardo says the girls have joined forces with some more friends of Alexis to solve the mystery of their friend's death. There's 8 of us all together, she explained, us and another group of Alexis work friends. We're all in a group text together and we're doing everything we can to find out what happened. We are determined to get justice for Alexis. When Tom told her friends that Alexis was missing, he said they had had an argument which ended with Alexis hopping over their patio fence and into a car that she drove away in. But reports say she left on foot and make no mention of a vehicle. And Tom tells a different story to the media. "We didn't fight when she left," he said. "I just told her she couldn't drive under the influence. She left anyhow. This is where we're at." Covering murders in 2020, there's always that social media element. We glean the small details that round out a story by checking out Facebook and Instagram profiles of killers and victims alike. And when the victim in question is an influencer involved in multi-level marketing, their entire life is online. But even after poring over the pages of posts, this picture is still pretty murky. It's a lot to weed through to get the real deal. All the long-winded shampoo promotions and Tom's Trump-supporting, occasionally COVID-denying spiels. I'm not even sure if Tom and Alexis were ever actually married. There were no wedding pictures, which is strange because there's pictures of every other moment of their lives. The closest thing is a photo Tom posted in which Alexis appears to be at a dress fitting. Also mysterious is Tom's own hunch. When he heard a body was discovered in Houston, he just knew it was Alexis and drove straight to the medical examiner's office. Whatever is going on, I'll bet we haven't heard the last of this case or the last of Tom Sharkey.
Wow, I kind of did a bit of poring over this case too. I thought this was really fascinating, and I was actually talking with Miles from Forensic Miles about this, and I hadn't heard the bit about him driving directly to the coroner's office when they found a body. Like I felt like he seemed a bit suspicious, and I don't like to speculate too much before we have the cause of death and such, but that is very
and he
suspicious.
acts pretty shifty with the media too, which is interesting because he seems to be doing like equal parts of like seeking out the media and trying to tell his story and explain how much he dedicated himself to searching for his missing wife or how much he misses the love of his life. But when he does get in there and start talking to the media and they start asking questions, he gets shifty. And a couple of times I've seen situations where he said something like, never contact me again by the end of the interview. And it's like he sought that out in the first place. So it's very strange. And I can't wrap my head around it, but something is mysterious.
Very strange. And if any of y'all have been following this, if there's anything we missed, if there's anything we should know, please let us know in the comments below, because this case is so fascinating. Like, the more I've heard about it, the more mysterious it is. On Saturday, police in Houston responded to a call about a reckless driver on Interstate 10 East traveling from Chambers County. Around 7:45 a.m., an officer located a white Honda speeding down 10 East and turned on her lights to pull over the vehicle. The car initially started to pull over, but then sped off, leading to a high-speed chase. The driver of the Honda then hit a concrete barrier while driving towards Milam Street in Beaumont and lost control of the vehicle, eventually ending up in a church resale shop parking lot. The driver has been identified as 35-year-old Victor Campbell Jr. This story takes a dark twist as police discovered a body in the trunk of the Honda after a search was done of the vehicle. 28-year-old Brianna Johnson was found dead in the vehicle, but the cause of death has not yet been released. We do know that Brianna and Victor appeared to be in a relationship. Days before her body was found, Brianna posted photos with Campbell that she captioned "date night" with a heart emoji. Brianna is from Los Angeles but was living in Houston and studied administration of justice at Texas Southern University. Victor has also moved from California to Texas, but we're unsure of how long the two have known each other. According to ABC 13, investigators were able to get video from the duplex where Brianna lived that showed Campbell covering one of the cameras with a sheet, but not the other. In that video, Campbell can be seen backing his car up to the door and putting Brianna's body in the trunk at around 4:55 a.m. on Saturday morning. Victor has had past charges for family violence and faces charges for felony evading arrest, driving while intoxicated, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. Additional felony charges may be added after the results of the autopsy are released. Brianna will be remembered by her family and friends for being fun, her entrepreneurial nature, and her love of makeup, which she would post on her YouTube channel, Big Body Brie, which is super cute, and I spent most of my day yesterday watching her videos, just kind of feeling like I got to know her. Brianna's family has created a GoFundMe to help cover the cost of her funeral, and we are linking to the details below. Please help if you're able.
This week, we're watching The Undoing on HBO. If you loved Big Little Lies, you'll want to watch this great murder mystery starring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant. Nicole Kidman plays a therapist in New York whose life begins to unravel after a woman she has just met is murdered, and it looks like her husband, Hugh Grant, might be involved. The show is kind of like Big Little Lies meets The Fugitive, and you really can't go wrong with Nicole Kidman. The finale just aired on Sunday, so if you're caught up, we want to hear your thoughts on the show in the comments below. I just binged this one since you recommended it to me, Aurora. I finished the last episode last night. God.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous because I watched like 2.5 episodes on Sunday. I was so into it, but I've been waiting for my husband to finish watching it because we're doing it together. And I kind of feel like if he doesn't have time to watch it, I'm going to have to go this journey alone.
You're going to run out
because
of
it's
patience.
so engaging. Yes.
It is.
Like I have to see it.
It actually
no
screwed up my
spoilers.
sleep schedule. I started staying up all night watching it, and then I just was tired the next morning, and I'm like, oh no, everything's ruined.
It's that good. It's one of those shows that you find yourself watching late into the early hours of the morning, and oh my God, I gotta finish it.
The best way I saw someone put it, I saw a friend comment that she loved watching Grace realize who she married. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good sum up.
Yeah.
And I love the dad too.
And it's good because Hugh Grant can either play a really good guy, like he's in, I think it's Sense and Sensibility, and he plays the love interest, and he's so bumbling but charming and sweet and lovable, or he plays the charming asshole and he's just the worst. And in this, he's
the narcissist
the worst.
That's phony charming. It's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, the best and the worst. He's great. Both of them are so good. We're so excited to have Sneha and Aditi with us from this week's favorite podcast, Khooni, The Crimes of India. Khooni tries to navigate the murky waters of true crime in their country, India. Aditi and Sneha, thank you so much for joining us. How are you both doing today?
We're good. How are you?
I am so good, and I'm so excited to meet both of you because we were kind of talking before this. I've spent a bit of time in India. It's one of my favorite places to be. My husband works in film, so we've spent some time in Mumbai for work. And when I was in India, I was kind of wondering what the true crime scene and community was. And finding your podcast is amazing because I know you all have some pretty wild murders. And so it's a wonderful show for anybody that's looking for maybe some crimes they haven't heard of before. It's pretty great for that. So how did the two of you meet and what inspired you to start your podcast?
So we have a very boring meeting story. So we went to law school together. And
that's not boring. That's cool.
So she was one of the first people I spoke to. And I was, I think, 17 when we first met. And now we're both 30 and it's good. And yeah, that's how. And actually throughout law school, we didn't know that the other one was into true crime or like watching or reading about true crime. It was only much later that we figured. So, and now it took us about 7 years after we graduated, but it's here.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you discovered you were into true crime, and then why a podcast? What prompted that?
We started a podcast mainly because it's a low production thing. It's very easy to get into. It's a very democratic platform. It does not require a lot of equipment, especially not as much as maybe YouTube will require. Right. And we already had the equipment because Sneha is into music. And she already owned mics and everything. Yeah. So she just sent over to my place. So she just sent it over to my place, and we'd been ruminating over it for a very long time because we both used to listen to true crime podcasts, and we thought, this has to be done in India, and we should do it. We both have the appetite for it and the inclination for it. So we were supposed to start in September of this year. But then lockdown happened in India in March itself. So we were we have so much time on our hands now, nothing better to do apart from our work. So let's just get the ball rolling. That's how we started, basically.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the only good thing to come from lockdown has been, I think a lot of people that had a passion for podcasts or creating some kind of media had the opportunity to do it, the time and the motive to do it. So that's great. So what is your true crime origin? Yeah. What got you into this in the first place? Was there a murder in your hometown, a story that's always haunted you?
So for me, it just started from when I was really little. So my mother was a lawyer. So I've grown up around family where people have been into law, and also not only that, I've always had this inclination towards reading things like famous by when I was little, and then slowly graduated to Truman Capote, and now I'm here. So
Right.
that's
Yeah. I think in India you can't escape crime, no matter where you like it doesn't get out in international papers so much. I think only the most heinous ones find time in international papers, but it's a it's a daily reality for many people in India, especially in the state that I live has very high crime statistics, and I've always lived in smaller towns, so like that proximity to crime has most of the like it's been there. It does not touch my life that much because I've been fortunate enough that in that way. But yeah, it's been there. It's been in the background. You hear about it almost daily on the news. So nothing major, touch wood, nothing major crime wise has happened in our lives. But yeah, it's a daily reality in India.
That's disappointing to hear because you kind of think that living in a smaller town, there's a sense of safety, like there's less people to make things go wrong, but then to live in a small place where you're kind of like can't escape it. Gosh, that's a
Yeah.
kind of a different thing for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned that I was so excited to find your show because I feel like in North America, we just don't hear a ton of stories about crime in India. Like you kind of have to go searching for it. And it can be hard to find, and it can also be hard to find translated. So that's really great that your show, you kind of bridge that. I really loved your 2-part episode on the Vedapan and your coverage of the recent rape and murder in Hathras. Out of all of the cases that you've researched and presented, which one has been your favorite or has been the most engaging for you?
so. I did the for me, Veerappan was something that just put me in a it was like I went into this deep dive. It was great when I started out. It's something that happened from a state where my family's from. So I knew I've heard of him growing up, and where the whole you could say the whole wherever he committed the crimes and all that area is very close to where a part of my family lives. So I had grown up hearing about him. So when I actually started doing the research on it, I realized there were so many other angles to it which never came out, in the popular media coverage. Like even when even his um, gunning down, which the police would say it wasn't planned, we just found him and all, but the whole backstory is that there was like something which is not covered by the media. So that kind of just put me into this huge funk for a bit. In fact, I told Aditi, I said, listen, can we just take some time off? I need 2 more days to just figure things out and then
Exit you.
write it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other episode I really enjoyed was the two-parter, three-parter on Charles Sobraj. And that for me actually was really interesting because I love to travel. And the whole portion where he did most of his crimes, like in that Thailand and all places where I've been. And for me, it was really, interesting to see it could have happened to me had I
Yeah.
been born at that time. So yeah,
Like
those
so
are the
close
two.
to home.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I felt that way. I don't know how familiar you all are with Israel Keys and like his murders. Like I was
Yeah.
in
Same.
Alaska, like for like a
Yeah. Yeah.
trip, like when he was active. He was also really active in Texas, where I was living at the time. And it's like I was like kind of like mapping some of the places he was with some of like my like road trips and stuff. And I was like, I could have been one of his victims, like like in like some like other planet, like some other parallel reality. So I
Yeah.
totally know what you're saying with that. That's so fascinating. And how about for you, Aditi?
I One of my favorite two-parters was we did this story on God man in India, self-proclaimed God man. India is a very religious country. I think it's people are very it's not just established religions. Even like people will get devoted to individual people as well. So there is that cult system which is very common in India, and a lot of people take advantage of that. A lot of men take advantage of that. And so we had this person called Gurmeet Ram Rahim. So he was basically based out of the northwestern part of India in Punjab, Haryana basically. And his reign of, basically it was a reign of terror. He basically took over a cult, and he exploited women. He exploited the men also, because he would take in these very young boys and he would castrate them so as to keep them within the fold. And then he would sexually exploit the women, because, he would tell them that they have sinned and they must repent for their sins. So forcing himself on them was his way of granting them maafi or forgiveness. It was a horrible situation for a lot of people who were basically sort of trapped within that cult for many years. And it took local journalists who displayed incredible bravery to bring that story out to the rest of the world. The problem with Ram Rahim, which I don't see in a lot of other cult leaders, is that he had this very colorful other personality. Okay, so we refer to it in our podcast as well. He used to make these really bad but very showy movies, and he would be the protagonist in that movie. He would write songs, and there are videos of him performing in front of large crowds, like like Coldplay or Metallica, honestly, with the big hair and everything. It is insane. Yeah, and people used to attend those concerts. He would hold concerts and people used to attend them. And he had this ashram in this small town called Sirsa. And technically ashrams are supposed to be these very Spartan places where you just meditate and, read philosophy or something. But his so-called ashram was this big, spread over this massive structure, and it had an auditorium, and it had shops, it had a school and colleges. And he used to also do a lot of charity work. A lot of politicians were in cahoots with him because he had this massive band of loyal followers. So you want votes, you go to this leader. And so he was in cahoots with a lot of politicians, which also delayed a lot of criminal proceedings against him. He had a lot of clout. So it took incredible effort from local journalists, from the victims themselves, who were very, very brave. One victim wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of India, anonymously, of course, but she wrote it, and that's how the whole matter, in fact, came to light. And I think that is a horrible story. It shows the worst of India, I think, but it also is a story of incredible bravery among victims.
Right.
So
that's such a good perspective, because wow, that sounds really terrible. Like, I'm definitely gonna have to go listen to that episode. I hate to be like, ooh, that sounds terrible, but wow, I've never heard that before, and that sounds fascinating. Well, it's been such a pleasure having both of you here today. Can you let our viewers know where they can find you on social media?
So we have an Insta page at it's at Khooni Podcast, and we also have a Twitter page. Which one is this, Aditi? Okay, that's also pretty much at Khooni Podcast, I think. And we have a merch store, but if people who want to get our merch are outside India, they'll have to write to us because there's a couple of listing problems. So if you have to ship abroad, we have to, do it in another way. So there is that. And you can always write into us. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're everywhere. So on most podcast platforms.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, be sure to subscribe to Khooni Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. It's time to get freaky festive with our new line of holiday murder merch. We've added 3 new shirts that would make the perfect gift for yourself or that armchair detective in your life. I'm modeling my favorite today, which says it's beginning to look a lot like murder, which Angelina made for me, and it's super cute. All of our merchandise is not only designed, but also handmade by Angelina because she's such a beautiful, magical, creative, murderous little elf. That means if you already like one of our designs, but you're not thrilled about the cut it normally comes with, send us a message and let us know, and if you need a specific size or cut. Just keep in mind that it might take us slightly longer to acquire that shirt, and it is coming from the North Pole, aka Montreal, but we'll still do our best to get it to you as fast as possible. Check out all of our new designs in the link below or by stopping by murdermurder.news.
We want you to have your best murder Christmas ever, and that's why we have created the big, definitive true crime guide for the holidays already up at murdermurder.news. We have you covered for all of your holiday needs, from LGBTQIA and BIPOC murderino makers to Christmas movies and books with a spooky theme. We've also created a Spotify playlist with some of our favorite holiday episodes from true crime podcasters like Once Upon a Crime and Book of Lies. We'll continue to add holiday suggestions to our guide all this month, so be sure to check back for our latest features. The link to our guide is available in the details below, or just go to murdermurder.news. Thanks so much for tuning into This Week in True Crime with Murder Murder News. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, give us a thumbs up, and tell all of your true crime friends.
Help support Murder Murder News by signing up for our commune at murdermurder.news, and your $5 a month sponsorship helps keep the true crime lights on. It helps us produce our weekly show and helps support our amazing writers that keep you up to date with the latest breaking news every day on murdermurder.news. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok. See you next week.